I adjusted my purposefully understated outfit, sitting quietly in the back row of my sister Madison's luxury boutique opening. 4 months, I'd maintain my cover as the fashion-obsessed failure of the family, letting them mock my blog while it secretly became the industry's most influential voice. At least keep your little website away from our guests, Madison hissed, gesturing to my laptop. This is a serious fashion event. If she only knew that her entire inventory had already been subtly critiqued on my platform, where a single post could make or break a brand. Still playing dress-up online? My mother smiled tightly to her friends. Though I suppose it keeps her occupied. I hid my smile behind my screen, where my latest review was about to send shockwaves through the fashion world. My blog, under the mysterious pseudonym, The Velvet Critic, had become required reading for every major designer and buyer. Remember when she thought she could influence fashion? Madison laughed to her designer friends. As if anyone reads blogs anymore. My phone buzzed silently, another urgent request from Vogue for an exclusive interview. Everyone wanted to know the true identity of the critic who could shift market trends with a single post. Such a waste of her business degree, my mother sighed to the gathering crowd. She could have had a real career in fashion like Madison. I kept typing, remembering their mockery when I turned down a buying position at a major department store to start my blog. They'd called it childish. I called it revolutionary. Alexandra, my secret editor, texted, "Major brands refreshing your site every minute. They know a review is coming." The fashion world requires connections, Madison announced to her guests. Real influence, not just internet opinions. My phone vibrated again. Buyers worldwide waiting for your verdict on the new collections. Through my carefully chosen non-designer glasses, I watched the boutique's opening unfold. Madison had invested everything in this store, not knowing that its success hung on my next post. "Darling," my mother touched my shoulder, "perhaps put the computer away? The real fashion people are here." I smiled slightly, finalizing my review. The real fashion people had been desperately trying to discover my identity for months. James, my head of digital operations, appeared in deliberately unfashionable clothing. He was the only one who knew my true identity here. "Everything's ready," he whispered. "The post goes live in 10 minutes. "Perfect," I replied quietly, watching Madison showcase her carefully curated collection. My phone lit up. Women's Wear Daily standing by for the Velvet Critic's latest industry-shaking review. Soon they'd learn that their fashion-obsessed failure had become the most powerful voice in the industry. Let them enjoy their boutique opening. In a few minutes, everything changes. Sometimes the best seat isn't in the front row. It's in the back where no one suspects the power of a single blog post. Through my laptop screen, I could see the fashion world holding its breath, waiting for my verdict. Soon they'd understand exactly what their silly little blogger had built while they weren't looking. The boutique opening continued, each guest trying to impress Madison with their fashion credentials, none of them noticing that the industry's most influential critic was quietly typing in the back row. Tomorrow's headlines would tell a very different story about influence and power in the fashion world. And Madison's carefully planned opening? Its success was about to be determined by the sister she'd dismissed as playing dress-up online. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room isn't the one in designer labels, it's the one quietly writing about them. The final countdown began. In 10 minutes, the fashion world would once again be shaped by the Velvet Critic's words, and my family would finally understand what real influence looks like. They thought I was just playing on my laptop. They were about to learn that in today's fashion world, the pen, or rather the keyboard, is mightier than the designer label. At exactly 8 p.m. my review went live. Within seconds, phones throughout the boutique began buzzing frantically as the fashion world reacted to the Velvet Critic's latest pronouncement. "What's happening?" Madison demanded as her designer friends suddenly became engrossed in their phones. "Oh my God," gasped a Vogue editor who'd barely acknowledged me earlier. "The Velvet Critic just posted about new luxury boutiques." I closed my laptop slowly, watching the ripples spread through the crowd. Fashion buyers who'd been politely browsing Madison's collection now stood frozen, reading my words. "She mentioned your store, Madison," our mother said excitedly, then her face fell. "Oh." My review was characteristically thorough and brutally honest. I'd praised Madison's eye for emerging designers but eviscerated her pricing strategy and store layout. In the fashion world, my word had become law. Who is this person to judge? Madison's voice shook as she read. What gives them the right? Perhaps, I stood up, removing my deliberately unfashionable glasses, years of analyzing industry trends while being dismissed as playing dress-up online. The room fell silent. Alexandra appeared, now dressed in her true role as my executive editor, holding a tablet displaying our site's analytics. The numbers you requested, she said professionally. We're at 2 million unique views and climbing. Impossible, Madison whispered. You're not. The Velvet Critic? I smiled. The mysterious figure whose approval every major brand seeks? The voice that can make or break a fashion launch. My phone buzzed continuously, designers begging for coverage, brands seeking partnerships, magazines demanding interviews. But you've been sitting here with that silly blog, my mother stammered. Building the industry's most influential platform, I corrected. While you were measuring success in designer labels, I was becoming the voice that decides which labels matter. James appeared with more updates. Major retailers adjusting their buying strategies based on my review, fashion weeks rearranging their schedules to accommodate my coverage. Your little website, Madison began, generated more revenue last month than your boutique will see in a year, I finished. Amazing what happens when you understand how digital influence shapes modern fashion. The crowd parted as Anna Winter's assistant rushed in. The Velvet Critic is here? In person? Indeed, I replied, finally dropping my carefully maintained disguise. Though my family knows me better as their fashion-obsessed failure. Madison sank into a nearby chair as buyers began quietly canceling their orders, following my recommendations for alternative suppliers. The industry connections, my mother said weakly, are quite different now, I agreed. Funny how influence works in the digital age. James displayed our global reach on the boutique's presentation screens, millions of followers, billions of impressions, unprecedented industry impact. The front row seats you never offered me? I smiled. Every major fashion house now holds them empty until I confirm my attendance. My phone lit up again. Emergency meeting of luxury brands called to discuss Velvet Critic's latest market predictions. The power dynamic had shifted completely. Now they understood that true fashion influence wasn't about wearing the right labels. It was about determining which labels would matter tomorrow. Your boutique, I turned to Madison, has potential. I'll be publishing a follow-up piece with specific recommendations. I suggest you follow them. After all, in today's fashion world, the Velvet Critic's word was worth more than any designer label. And that silly little blog? It had just demonstrated more power than all their prestigious fashion connections combined. 1 month later, I sat in my Manhattan office, surrounded by wall-to-wall screens displaying real-time fashion analytics and market trends. Designer samples worth millions crowded the racks, every major brand desperate for the Velvet Critic's approval. Your sister's boutique reopens today, Alexandra informed me, after implementing all your recommendations. Through our monitors, I watched the transformation. Madison had swallowed her pride and followed my suggestions exactly: new layout, better curation, revised pricing. Her store was now being hailed as an innovative retail concept. And Mom's charity fashion show? I asked, reviewing next season's previews from Paris. Waiting for your RSVP. They've reserved the entire front row just in case. I smiled, remembering how they used to hide me in the back. Now, no major fashion event dared start without confirming my attendance. Miss Velvet, my assistant entered. Vogue, Elle, and Harper's Bazaar are all holding their September covers. They want your feature story. My phone buzzed constantly, designers seeking previews, brands requesting consultations, fashion houses begging for mentions. Remember when they called it playing dress-up online? I mused, declining another round of Fashion Week invitations. Now they're rearranging Fashion Week schedules around my posts. James appeared with our latest metrics. Your review of Madison's reopening just crashed our servers. The industry is calling it a masterclass in modern retail. Speaking of masterclasses, I glanced at my schedule. How's enrollment for our Digital Fashion Academy? Oversubscribed, Alexandra reported. Even the traditional fashion schools are requesting your curriculum. My phone lit up. Luxury brands report. Velvet critic now industry's most powerful voice. The family's annual fashion luncheon, Alexandra reminded me. Ah yes, I smiled. Where they used to mock my little website. How times change. The screens around us displayed our global impact, our reviews reshaping collections, our predictions directing trends, our analysis driving billions in retail decisions. Your mother called, James added. She's hoping you'll advise on her wardrobe for the Vogue party. Interesting, I pulled up our influence metrics. Last year she said I was wasting time with internet fashion. My empire had expanded beyond just reviews. We now operated the industry's most respected trend forecasting service, a revolutionary retail analytics platform, and a fashion tech incubator. The real fashion people, I mused, watching luxury brands adjust their strategies based on my latest post. Funny how they define that now. Alexandra displayed the latest numbers. Our platform's valuation had surpassed that of several major fashion houses combined. Madison's new buyer application, she mentioned. For the position she once offered me? I laughed softly. Hold that thought. The screens showed my sister's boutique thriving under my guidance. The same guidance she'd dismissed as worthless. Your Fashion Week schedule, James presented. Every major house is offering private previews. Schedule them here, I decided. Let them come to the blogger they used to ignore. My phone buzzed. Business of Fashion, How the Velvet Critic Revolutionized Fashion Industry. I reviewed Madison's latest sales figures, her success now entirely dependent on following her fashion-obsessed sister's advice. The family's social media, Alexandra said. They're all proud of their visionary relative now. Amazing how vision improves, I smiled. Once influence is undeniable. The fashion world had changed. My silly little blog now had more power than their old connections. Miss Velvet, my assistant said. The Met Gala committee wants your theme suggestions. Last year I sat in the back row. This year I decided who sat where. Your mother's magazine interviews, James added. They all want to talk about raising a fashion revolutionary. Interesting, I said. Especially since she once told me to get a real job. From my office I saw trends I had created, styles I predicted, brands I lifted or destroyed. In my first post I wrote, the next revolution won't come from runways. Now the industry lived by my words. Madison's store proved my point. Even critics who mocked digital fashion couldn't ignore me now. Your next review, Alexandra reminded. Brands are trembling. Good. They had learned, true power wasn't wearing the right clothes. It was deciding what right meant. That silly little blog had become the loudest voice in fashion. My phone buzzed. Fashion's new emperor, how the velvet critic took over. I smiled. They once mocked me for playing dress-up online. I was still playing, only now the entire fashion industry was my stage. The most powerful statement wasn't what I wore. It was what I wrote. And that laptop they mocked? More powerful than all their designer wardrobes combined.